Okay, I'm going to start recording. So all things blog related are pretty much going to be here in the posts. And this is just a sample one. This hello world one is a sample one. It kind of goes over like the basics of it. So I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's like a title right here, and then the actual blog content is right here. And this is going to be where you're doing most of the editing. Ignore the edit with Elementor. That's not something we're going to use on the blog posts themselves. The big thing for optimizing the blog posts is this thing over here called RankMath. And the way you access RankMath is by this kind of red button. It's usually red by default until you put a keyword in. And then you click that and it pulls up that little dash bar over here. And this is just like a step-by-step guide on how to get a great like SEO optimization for this particular post. And then it has like everything here where it will give you more details if you're like curious about like what something in particular means. And then that's RankMath. We'll go more into detail about that in a little bit. But over here is the settings. So usually I like to just get blogs done in one go. I don't typically use like a draft format, but I mean, it's totally something you can do. So you would just, usually will say save as draft or publish. Right now it's saying, because it's already published, it's saying switch to draft or update. So I'm just going to switch it back to a draft. And this is the standard view. So I mean, it's best to publish a blog once it's all finalized. Like you don't want to be making changes to it afterwards once it's live. So that's what that feature is for. I'm going to go back to publish. And then this stuff isn't too particular unless you want like a specific like layout in the feed, but we're not kind of at that point yet. But like you could change the date and time of everything. And then the author is something over here too. So like mine doesn't look good as like an author compared to yours because like that's like an actual name. Currently, yes. And the reason why is, sorry, say that again. Yeah, I mean, we can just create a fake author name. Like it could be Andrew if we really want. Like we could create like an account labeled Andrew, so that way you can just select Andrew, so it looks like he's the author of it. Because like what happens now, this is just a template. So this is just like a quick little template that I took to just kind of take all of this information from over here and bring it to the website theme. So it's pulling the title right here. I'll just kind of show you what it's doing. So here is Elementor single post. And this is definitely something we're going to change over time. But I just figured let's just get something quick and easy set up just so that way we can start actually putting blogs on the site. This is all visual and styling. It's not the actual blog content. And once it takes a second to load, so you'll see here it's pulling the post title, so that's how it's finding this information. Right here it's pulling the featured image of the post. This is pulling the date and author, and this is pulling the excerpt, and this is just standard in there. It's just a link to all of Gables and Grove's social media accounts, and then this is pulling the actual blog content. And then this is just navigation to other posts once those other posts go live. But to kind of recap everything, let me move this to this side. And let me move this to right here. So everything looks all wonky. But so this hello world is the title, that goes right there. This blog content is down over here. And then you're gonna have to click the settings cogwheel to find all these other things. So when you click the settings, there's two sections, there's block and post. Rarely ever you're gonna do stuff under block. So here's where you can select the authors. Ignore the template. You can always change the permalink because that does affect SEO right there. But here's the big thing is the featured image. That's how this is getting pulled. And then this excerpt is how that's getting pulled. That's something that a lot of people forget to leave out. So these things look really off when those things are not put in there. Just so something to keep in mind. We'll set up categories and tags, but those aren't too important just yet. And then, okay, so that's how it looks. And like I said, we can always change the styling of blogs down the line. This is just so it gets formatted onto the website. Going back to the actual post itself. So this is just a sample one that was like already installed on the site when the site went live. So let's go about actually starting a new blog. So you're going to go over here to add new. And then we have that plugin that we just installed to allow us to upload files to the site. Otherwise, you would just have to manually enter it. So we're going to go. Wait, I didn't download. Did I download? I did. Okay, so let's just do this one. The difference between Perfect. So just taking a look to see how it's coming through, and then there should be the option to, yep, insert into editor. And there it is. Everything just kind of automatically gets formatted into here, and then I'm just going to take that title and put it here. And then typically what I do is I just use like this as the excerpt. So let me find that spot over here, put that right there. And it doesn't need to be on the post itself again, just because we have it there at the top of the page. And then just quickly just gonna grab a featured image of just something that's like cabinets related for the time being. Let's see, cabinets. This one, oh, there we go. There's some cabinets. That's there. I'm just going to change you to the author for the time being. And then default template, just making sure everything's good. Tags. So tags are an element of SEO. They're not like too important on the site. Like that's like something when like you get to like a real like ton of blogs, but it's good usefulness for like, for example, there's always the ability to filter blogs on the site. So you could filter things by residential, you could filter things by service type, you could filter things by just like the type of blog post it is, but that's more categories than anything. It's hard at this time to like really determine like what's the best categories and tags. Like this is something you can always go back to later down the line. And this is more of just like, so for example, right now there's gablesandgrove.com/blog. And there's really nothing on it just because there's really not much blog content that we have. There's just this one sample one for the time being. But as time goes on, there's going to be a lot of blog content, and that's the purpose of categories and tags. It allows you to filter it so that way when people go to this blog page, you could have something that's like company news or cabinets, things of that nature. So it's really at your discretion to kind of come up with like what makes sense to categorize it and tag everything. And then tags are a little bit more detailed. So this is going to be like like how I would do it is like I would set up this category as maybe painting, and then let's just add painting, and then it could be like something like informational instead of like updates and things like that. But I think just painting for the time being doesn't hurt. And then for the tags, then we can do painting, cabinet painting, information. I don't think so. I typically just kind of keep it like in a hashtag sense, where I usually just do up to 30, but I don't think I ever really do a full 30. It's like the real benefit of something like this is just for, like I said, for filtering things down the line. So whatever it makes sense to filter things, because the actual SEO is in the post itself rather than these, but how crawlers see it is like they'll see what the tags are and things like that. So I mean, it makes it look better if you have relevant tags to relevant information in the blog, if that makes sense. But you'll notice here in RankMath, there's no specific kind of instruction about tags. So it's not like the biggest kind of like, it's not highest on the totem pole in terms of like things you should be paying attention to get good SEO. Everything over here is way more important than like tags and categories, but it is a small element of it. So I didn't want to kind of like brush it off, but I kind of am brushing it off. So like here's everything kind of put in here. And then we would actually, like the big first step of actually going about optimizing it is putting in this focus keyword. So the focus keyword for this one is kitchen cabinet refinishing. Or sorry, cabinet refinishing was the focus keyword. So we're gonna take cabinet refinishing and put it right there. And you'll see it immediately jumped up in score because we have some relevancy to this already, but it's telling us like, okay, so there's certain things going on that we need to improve. First of all, basic SEO. You're using the focus keyword in the SEO title. So right here, we have cabinet refinishing in the title. Focus keyword is not found in meta description. So a meta description is, so if I search cabinet refinishing, right here's a meta description, like this little kind of blurb in the organic results. And then how you go about editing that is right here where it says edit snippet. And this allows you to edit the title, allows you to edit the permit link and the description. We have like a really long title, so I'm gonna take out this site name. Even then, it's still a little bit big. It's kind of like one of these things where like there's certain, like over here it's going to say title readability. Focus keyword doesn't begin in the beginning of SEO title. Your title doesn't contain a positive or a negative sentiment word. Your title doesn't contain a power word. I typically shoot for an 80 or better in terms of a score. I like to get the score to green. As soon as it's green, it's good. If you can get to 99, or like anything above a 95 is like phenomenal. But that's that's not going to happen for this post, just because we're going to have issues with this title. We don't have a number in it. We don't have a power word. We don't have a positive or negative sentiment, and the focus keyword isn't at the beginning. Here's the link for that. Like this goes into detail and it gives you a full list of power words, and it's mainly like stuff that helps with engagement. So like these are a list of all the power words you can use in there. I typically don't focus on the title as much as this section. Everything else is a higher priority to me than the title readability in terms of SEO. Like really, like this stuff is the real juice of SEO, as well as this stuff. The title is just how you get clicks for the most part. So like you're gonna get more clicks on an article if it has like a power word in it. You're gonna get more clicks on an article if there's like a number in it. So you could even do the difference between kitchen cabinet refinishing versus painting in 2022. And then right there, that would fix you're using your number in your SEO title, and right there, right at the beginning. So it actually helped a little bit more than I was expecting. And we could probably keep that. Like we could probably keep that because it's already long, but it's not making it like super extra long. If anything, it should be a little bit shorter. Again, this is like your discretion. Like it's like what makes the most sense. Like if you have something where you can fit a number in it, then do a number. If you don't, then don't. So like an example is like my blog. So I try to do the title thing if it makes the most sense to do so. So like here, greatest tattoo scheduling software recommendation, Calendly 2021. The best tattoo shops of 2021 do these two things. I typically use the year because like for one, if it's that year, so in 2021, I got a lot of clicks on these blogs just because it was relevant for that time. The click rate's going to drop down year after year just because it's going to seem irrelevant unless I go in and update all of these. So I typically don't, like for something like this, you could do the year to improve the score of it, but then it's like something where it's like it's just going to be something you have to keep in the back of your mind for the future, where you're going to have to go in and edit it each year to keep it relevant. Here's a better version of it. I'm not a big fan of these titles, but this is the best I could come up with at the time. This one, 5 amazing tips for landing page optimization. There I'm able to sneak in the number and it makes the most sense. But here's another one, building a landing page for SEM versus SEO. There's no number in there and it's totally fine. Trying to think of what else would be a good example. Here, all 3 of these have numbers. Yeah, this is one I go in and edit every year because this is probably the most popular blog article I have on my site. So to keep it relevant, I go in and update it. The other ones I don't care as much just because there really isn't too much traffic going to them as much as this one. But this one is something I don't ever have to worry about because it's not tied to a particular year. It's always going to be 5 unique tattoo shop promotion ideas to be consistently booked. So that's what I was saying about like just use your best discretion for it. If it makes sense, like if you have things that talk about time in this article, well then it doesn't hurt to mention in 2022 in it. But if the year really isn't relevant to it whatsoever, like don't bend over backwards to force in a number in the title. Again, like this is like I would go through these things first to see what score you get before you try and think about this one. So we're gonna go through these. So like, let me take this snippet over here. So I'm gonna go find that excerpt and then go back to this, edit snippet, and then put it in here. And this doesn't have the focus keyword in the beginning of it. So I'm just gonna quickly come up with something. So refinishing, or cabinet refinishing is one of the most cost-effective cost-effective ways to improve the look and feel of your home and kitchen. So it knows what the keyword is from right here. You're putting in that focus keyword. And then it's going to search everything that you're doing for that specific keyword. So that's why coming up with like, that's why the strategy is important for blogging, is like you always want to have a focus keyword. And then this is what makes SEO simple, is like you're literally just putting in the focus keyword, and then this essentially does a lot of the hard work by telling you what you need to improve it. So use focus keyword in the URL. Currently the URL is, we're going to change this because right now it'd be a very long one. So cabinet refinishing versus painting. And then I guess once it gets published, that should be fixed right there. And then content is 935 words long. Good job. You see, it's not like totally green. That's okay. Like, I mean, like I'm one of these believers where it's like, we're just gonna do what works. Like, we don't like. It's better to be doing something better than nothing. It doesn't need to be 100% just to put it out there. Because we need to publish it. Once we publish it, then the URL is going to happen. It didn't have a URL prior until we published it. So now you see, once I published it, focus keyword is used in the URL. If I go back to a draft, it might keep it now. Yeah, I think it's keeping it now. But that's the reason why. So like the URL, because like when it's in a draft, there's no like URL connected to it. And then as soon as you hit publish, then the URL gets generated in there. And then I imagine just by going back to a draft, it still has the original URL kind of memorized. Here's the big thing. So focus keyword is not found in subheadings like H2, H3, H4. So this is called something called content hierarchy, and content hierarchy is probably the most important aspect of like SEO. So you would have all these different things. So what is cabinet refinishing? What is cabinet painting? Why are the methods commonly confused? What makes them so different? Okay, so here's subsections of this one. So this is essentially one major section. This is essentially another major section. This is another major section, subsections, another major section. So this is what I'm talking about, content hierarchy. This is going to be H2. This is going to be H2 because the title is H1. This one's also going to be H2. This is where, I mean, it doesn't know this stuff automatically. This is where you have to tell it what's going on. Like when you, it's a good question. I haven't seen those before. I think it's just how it got formatted in there. And then if I just delete in front of it or press like backspace next to it, they seem to go away. Let me do a quick little preview. You can always preview what you're doing just to see like how it's going to look on the actual front end. So here, okay, yeah, they're not showing up over here. And then let's go back to this. That's going to be a formatting thing, and that's more down the line rather than right now. I'm not too focused about the aesthetic right this second, just because I mean, first of all, it takes like 6 to 9 months for blogs to even rank, so it's like there's not really even going to be traffic coming to this blog right away. It's more of just like what makes the most sense to be spending time on right this second, and working on like the blog layout and the blog format is kind of not as high priority as creating custom landing pages. But okay, so all of these are H2. What makes them so different? This one's a subsection, so this needs to be something different. So you're going to choose heading 3 for this one. This is what I'm talking about, like the content hierarchy. And then heading 3. And this is like, again, this is dependent on each blog. Like there could be a subsection within a subsection. And if that's the case, then you choose heading 4. And then when things go back to the original, then you go upwards a heading. But the key thing to remember is that the title is the H1. Like the title is the only thing that should be H1. There should only be one H1, and that happens by default. Like you don't have to worry about changing that one. Everything else needs to be H2 because it doesn't, like when you upload it, it doesn't know that by default. So here everything's H1, H2, H3, and then it says we got a good score on that one again. So now it says focus keyword found in subheadings. So there we go. Add an image with your focus keyword as alt text. So imagery and media is a big component of blogs. And one of the ways to do that, so I'm just gonna sneak in a photo right here. So, this makes it a challenge because it's doing something different. But all right, so when you find a photo that you want to use, when you select it, over here on the right hand side, there's this button for alt text, and this is where you could put something in. You could say cabinet refinishing for a kitchen project for a white kitchen. And like how the best way to kind of like figure out what like alt text is like, imagine you were describing the image to someone who's blind. Like that's the best way to fill out alt text, is like if someone's blind looking at this website, what should the alt text be? And then how can you sneak a keyword into that alt text? So once, oh crap, I didn't sneak it in there. Add media, insert into post, and then I'm just going to align it center. And then once we did that, found focus keyword in an image with alt attributes. Right now we have a very low keyword density, and this is the problem with using like this is like why like outsourcing blogs never really works the best, is because sure they can write the content, but like this is probably the most important component of SEO, keyword density. So like the whole thing we're trying to focus on is cabinet refinishing. So how often is cabinet refinishing put into this? Some easy ways to fix this is like right here is essentially saying the same thing, but it's not the focus keyword. So cabinet refinishing is an extensive process rather than refinishing a cabinet. So how you say things is important in the article. But the other thing too is like you gotta have it where it makes sense. Like you can't force keywords into here. Like only where it makes sense to sneak the keyword is where you put it. So here again, so the refinishing process for cabinets. So the cabinet refinishing process takes much longer than painting. Cabinet refinishing process. We're still very low, 0.32. So there's a lot of places we got to sneak in keywords. So both painting and cabinet refinishing. I'm just going to use this tools refinishing. Here's another one where the keyword was afterwards. So cabinet refinishing, while cabinet refinishing. I'm a little bit over the top right now doing this, but it's just for the sake of showing you all these spots where it would, okay, that's one where it already makes sense with all the work that goes into it. Sorry, say that again? No, it does. It's just I'm usually a little bit more intentional. Like I sit here and read the entire blog thoroughly and try and find the best spots where the keyword makes sense. Right now, I'm just finding wherever it says refinishing and just putting cabinets in front of it just to get this score to go up. And once I did that, once I added like 6 more of those, you can see we're at a green score now. Typically, I typically don't listen to like the bare minimum. I usually like a keyword density of 1. When it says I have a keyword of density of 1 is my typical way of doing it. But I mean, if it says a green score, you're usually fine. Like I'm not gonna force the keyword in if it's at 0.75 to get to that 1.0. Like right now, it's a little bit over the top. Like I've just put it in. Like think about it this way: if like you're reading a blog and it's like constantly saying cabinet refinishing, cabinet refinishing, cabinet refinishing, it doesn't flow the normal way of speaking it. So like ultimately you want and this is the thing with SEO is you're constantly balancing performance and functionality versus the user experience. Like sometimes you prioritize the user experience over this like functionality and performance, and other times you prioritize the functionality and performance over the user experience. And that's just like a thing where you just kind of feel it out, like what makes the most sense at that time. Typically, and like my typical strategy is like I tend to prioritize functionality and performance on blog posts over user experience. And then for landing pages, I prioritize user experience instead of functionality and performance. Because like the thing is like blogs, they're designed to get you traffic. But the thing is like if you're a local based service provider, you're gonna get traffic from literally everywhere in the world. So like it doesn't need to have a good user experience when the whole purpose is just bringing traffic to the site, and even if it's not relevant traffic, like you just need it to have good SEO. Whereas like a landing page, that's designed specifically for your target audience. So the user experience needs to be like the utmost importance for that if you're going to be bringing traffic to that site. And like the other way too is like this can be a net. Like this page, like this blog, can be like essentially a way where you get traffic to go to your landing page. But that's more advanced stuff. Like that's rarely does that happen. Typically, people are like, blogs just boost your overall SEO authority, so your landing pages work better overall. Link outs. I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's kind of not as effective to have like multiple focus keywords in a blog article. I would say let's start with something smaller, and then we can always add it on. Like typically, if you're gonna do, like, you wouldn't want to do cabinet refinishing and cabinet painting. Like if you're gonna target multiple keywords, you would target long tail keywords off of the focus keyword. So this would be the focus keyword, cabinet refinishing, and then a long tail keyword would be how to go about cabinet refinishing, or what's the cost of cabinet refinishing, where you're using that existing keyword and then using the long tail modifiers to try and take advantage of that. That's when you use multiple keywords. And you can do it, like, you don't need the upgraded thing to do that. Like, you can just be conscious of that thing where here where it says the cabinet refinishing process, you could just say the kitchen cabinet refinishing process. And then right there, you're optimizing for essentially 2 keywords in one. But again, it goes back to that thing is like, does it flow naturally? Does it make sense to include those keywords in what you're saying? Here's another important one. So link out to external resources. So I'm not sure if we're talking about anything in particular here. So like, this is where I was like saying like, Andrew's the expert. Like, it's so hard to get a blog person to do this stuff because like here, painting can cover the damage. It doesn't talk about what paint you guys are using. So like, if that information was in there, you could say we use Benjamin Moore Ultra Spec 500, and then you could specifically link Benjamin Moore Ultra Spec 500 to get that external link in the blog. Here, we're gonna have to be a little bit more tricky with it. Like, so like in a case like this where there's really not talking about anything external, then we force our own external kind of thing. So something as simple as, if you're interested, and the other thing too is there's internal links that we have to do. So add do follow links pointing to external sources, and then add internal links. So I'm going to take care of both at once. So if you're interested in cabinet refinishing for your home and are located near Miami, please visit our, we don't have the cabinet page yet, so that's not going to work. Feel free to use our virtual quote form to get started on an estimate. Also, check out our what is it, 70, or I think you guys are over 100 now, our 100 plus Google reviews. Google reviews is one of my favorite external links to utilize. So if you're interested, so I typically turn off comments. You guys can allow comments, but 99% of the time comments are just spam. So I usually just turn comments off. So going to contact, get a virtual quote, interior and cabinet virtual quote. Feel free to use our virtual quote form. I'm going to link that virtual quote form, and then business.google.com. Gables and Grove. And then we want to find the share your business profile link. So this, copy this link, because this takes them to, for example, if I just put it in the URL, this takes us to the Gables and Grove Google My Business profile, and then they can read the reviews if they want to. Let me change it to our 75 plus. And then there's a kind of a method to the madness on this one, because it adds relevancy by linking your own kind of business. Like it helps. There's just a lot of benefits to linking like your own Google My Business profile. It counts as like an external link, but it's theoretically also an internal link. It's like a best of both worlds kind of situation. But something to keep in mind, anytime you're sending traffic off the site, you're going to want to choose this little cogwheel that says link options and then select open link in new tab. It's kind of a good rule of thumb. And then once we did those two things, you'll see we got 2 more green scores. And then this last one, use Content AI to optimize the post. That's just RankMath trying to plug their own thing to get like more money. I rarely ever use Content AI. I haven't seen it. Like it doesn't seem to be too important. It is something like if it's I don't know. I don't use it too often. I used it like in the past before. It like goes through your thing and tries to optimize it for you, but I think it does it poorly. I think it's better to have like human eyes on it than to let like this AI thing do it for you. No, it changes the actual subjects. Like it changes the text. It doesn't do all the things that we just did. If it did all the things we just did, I would love it, but it doesn't do that. It just like reformats how everything's written. And then you see we've essentially done everything we could. Like we followed all these instructions, and then we got a 74 out of 100. So that's not green. So I'm not too stoked about it being a 74 out of 100. So we're gonna do this thing. We're gonna increase the keyword density. So because that's like a half marked green one, and maybe by getting it all the way to the top, cabinet refinishing and cabinet refinishing. We're at a 77. We'll sneak it in. I just really like to have a green score. It makes me feel like I did a good job once I got to the green score. Having anything less than the green score just feels half-ass. So we're going to put 2022 or in 2022. And then that got us to a green. Like the 2 ways, like there was essentially 2 things we could have done. Either sneak in like a number in the title or make the blog post longer. I suck at writing, so there was no way. Oh yeah, I guess theoretically I could get the blog to be a little bit longer, writing some additional things about like call to actions at the bottom. But this is just a quick and simple, effective way to get it to that green score. And then once you do that, you hit publish, and then view post, and there it is. It's live on the site. I think, all right, sorry, I think I did forget one aspect of it. It might have been at the bottom and I wasn't quite realizing it. Usually the blogs really, really like if you have like multiple photos and videos within it. Where would that be? Content read. That's the reason why we didn't get a good score. I'm taking out this number thing. Yeah, so right here under content readability, here I didn't look at these 2 things. At least 1 paragraph is long. Consider using a shorter paragraph. So that paragraph, which one's the long one? They all look like the same size. I think it might be this one. Let me just split this. Nope, that wasn't it. Maybe this is it. I used to have a different plugin that I would use that would specifically highlight what the issue was for something like this, whereas RankMath doesn't do it. And it's like my one kind of like tiff with RankMath. Like I would love if RankMath specifically highlighted the spot that was like not working. I swear to God, these are like all the same amount of sentences. I'm just over here just adding spaces where it doesn't even make sense to. I'm just going to disregard that one for a time being because I don't know exactly where that spot is, and trying to find it isn't the best use of our time right this second. Let's just sneak in some photos and stuff like that. So you can always do add media, insert from URL. So like you could always go to like YouTube, and then Gables and Grove should essentially Gables and Grove. Here, let's just take Gables and Grove's already existing video, share, copy, edit the post, insert from URL, insert into post. And then here, you have a video that sneaks it in. And now we got, the score went up just from doing that, but it's not a perfect green score. Yeah. Again, I'm not focused on like like the whole point of this is just to show you how to do it. I'm like, not, like I'm not putting as much time and attention as I normally. This is like a typically like 2 to 5 hour thing for me that I'm trying to condense down. Yeah. So like I'm just like again, it goes back to what I was saying is like, well, total from start to finish. So like coming up with like the content ideas, trying to find all the relevant things, trying to get the good like the relevant things for it, and then if we really want to take things to the next level, what we would do is we would use this tool. So GeoImager is going to enhance the SEO of what we're trying to work on, specifically for media. So like we could upload a photo. This isn't Andrew's project, but just for the sake of it, like we could upload this photo about cabinets, and then we could search for Gables and Grove painting right here. Oh, I don't have the pro plan anymore. This is just going to give you an example of what it does. So let's say Gables and Grove is right here. It takes this latitude, longitude. We can add these keywords. So we can add these keywords like cabinet painting, cabinet refinishing, kitchen cabinets in Miami, like all these different things that are kind of relevant to it. Same thing about the alt text. Like you can put the alt text in here as like white kitchen cabinet refinishing, and then you can write these coordinates into there. And what that does is it adds some location to the media that you're uploading onto the site. This is like really, really advanced. Like I don't do this all the time. Like it's only if like it's like if I have like if there's like a location in the title, it makes sense to do that. Like if it said the difference between kitchen cabinet refinishing versus painting in Miami, then it makes sense to do this additional process. But this is just a general subject line that like I don't think it makes sense to do it for this particular post, but just showing you as an example of like, then you can take that, this like one that has these tags in there of all this information. It's essentially like juiced up version of the photo, and then you can put that on here as well. And then again, like this is just like where it makes the most sense to like add that spot. Like if you talk about like white cabinets in this paragraph, upload a photo of white cabinets. If you talk about black cabinets, upload a photo of black cabinets, like so on and so on. So it's like things like that where you're just trying to create media and content relevant to what you're talking about. Okay. Yeah, I was just putting some more media on there. So let me just add one more YouTube video, and I think we'll. Yeah, no. So if you're using third-party videos, so if you uploaded the video directly to the website itself, so here, let's go here. So add media. If you were to upload a video, that would slow down the site significantly. If you can use videos from YouTube, that does no effect to the site whatsoever. So I like to use videos from YouTube if possible. So here, we put them in. And then you see by just adding 3 pieces of media, we got this thing to get to a green score, and then we're at an overall green without having to do anything to the title. And that's typically my process for going about optimizing a blog. Again, just keep in mind, this is just like a real quick version of it. I would want to find photos and specifics that make sense to it. That are relevant, like the media should be relevant to it. Like I was just taking these videos of existing Gables and Grove stuff. Like this one probably wouldn't be a bad one. Like you could take this video and put it at the bottom of every blog post because it's relevant to what we're talking about. So it's just, again, it's just like, just use your judgment for like what makes sense to include on there. Usually I think it's like 3 or 4 pieces of media work well on a blog post to get to this point. I'm going to switch this back to a draft just because I don't want it to be live on the site. Once things are published, then Google's crawlers can essentially crawl this and start, what's the term? They can start like essentially like putting it in the ranking algorithm. And that's why I avoid publishing it until everything's all finalized. Do you want to go about trying to upload a different one and optimizing it while having me shadow you? How do I stop sharing? There we go. Yep, we're good to go. Let's do a different one. Let's do the other one, just because this one was already done. And it's always like when, yeah. Yep. You're gonna have to choose a file. In these cases, the way you guys are currently doing blogs, it makes sense to do this way. Typically, I write blogs directly in the WordPress editor. Like if you're the one writing the blog, it just makes sense to just write it in the WordPress editor itself. But if you guys are having people write blogs for you, then you're gonna want to do this upload. Yep, so then choose right there at the top, it says insert into editor. This is just making sure it looks how you intend it before it goes into the thing. And then, yep, there it does all of those. Yep. Yeah. So all of these headers are going to become H2s. You can do whatever you want. So just feel free to do as much as, like, in whatever order you want to do it. That one actually would make sense. So physical or I couldn't. So it's hard to once you start changing things. That's the thing where it gets tricky. I think that one was already a subsection by default. So that one would be H3. That's the other blog. Yep. Nope, H3. So you just go down one. Yeah, I think yours did everything by default. Yeah, I think yours. Choose the takeaway. What's the takeaway? Oh, that one's H1. It's weird. Sometimes like the auto formatter works really well. Sometimes it doesn't. It's just, I don't know. It's like hit or miss sometimes. Yeah, just to. Yeah, I see him as well. I think that's just like a formatting thing from how it's doing. It didn't show up in the actual post itself when we were doing it. So I'm not too worried about. Yeah, it shouldn't be the end of the world. Yep. And feel free just to use like irrelevant photos for the time being. Like you can always go back to this stuff down the line to fine tune it. Yeah, as long as we're not publishing it. I mean, it's better to do it like correctly the first time, but for the sake of time, because I do have to go at 3. I have another appointment. Yeah. Correct. Yeah, this is just for the sake of just making sure that you know how to do it without my help. So just so that way you have me being able to tell you what to do. And then, yes. Yep. But again, try and describe it like if it was like you're describing it to a blind person. It's not good since it's not a photo, but like you could just say like stucco repair in like Miami or something like that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Don't need to do anything with caption or description. All these other things you don't have to worry about. It's just the alt text is the primary concern. Yeah, you feel free to play around with all this stuff. Like you have like once we get off this call, feel free to do whatever you want and learn the ins and out. Click around on things to know what each thing does, and then you'll have this video to reference at any time if you need it. Yep, exactly that. Yep, correct. Yeah, so that's what. All right, so let's put the focus keyword in first. So choose. Let's scroll up a little bit, and then let's put in stucco repair. I think was the focus keyword of this one. It's a good question. I don't think the format of it matters. I don't think I've ever seen a difference in uppercase or lowercase or anything like that. I think just yeah, I'm pretty sure that doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't because some of it is like at the start of sentences, some of it's like all caps titles and stuff. So you're good. Just hit enter so that way it registers. That's the focus keyword. Perfect. And then the URL, like no matter what you do, it's not going to change anything until you publish the post. So that was the thing where like no matter what you do, it's going to show red until you publish it. But how you change it, like there's two spots to change it. I did it wrong the original first way, so I'm going to tell you how to do it the better way. Choose that cogwheel at the top. Yep. And then go to post. And then choose permalink. Yeah, that's the issue. We didn't publish it. Just hit publish. Now hit cancel. Or sorry, wait, it might make you do it again. Yeah, hit publish again, sorry. And then hit that little X. No, so that's just giving you the URL to share it. So hit that little X at the top. This is the other thing too. It didn't do anything by default because we didn't put a title in. But this is a good example. So where it says 1630, this is where you would put something like, what was the title of this blog post? How do I check? Okay, so yeah. So when you hit publish, it would have automatically converted that into the URL by default. But it's still, this is a good learning example of like how to go back and change it. So go to that, that post, and then right here, I would put, actually, so funny enough, the keyword stucco repair, this title doesn't work for what we want. We would have to change this title. So I would change this title. Like, I don't know, this isn't a good one. This is actually a great like learning opportunity to come up with a title that has a power word, a negative sentiment, and a number in it if you want to take on the challenge. I don't have the brain capacity to come up with that in like a second right now. So I would just like as a sample one, let's just say how to check for stucco repair. So I would enter that as a URL, how-to-check- like all, because in URLs, dashes, hyphens are spaces. And then choose update. And now click that number once it's updated, the 19 out of 100. And now you have the green check mark on the URL. So we got that taken care of. So now it's used, but for the sake of everything, let's choose switch to draft. Let's put it back into draft mode. Correct. So it's really weird. Like, you don't know when Google's going to crawl your site. Like, theoretically, it's not going to happen. Like, it would be really, really bad luck if, like, when we hit publish, Google crawled the site in that second and saw this blog post. Like, it would just be the worst timing in the world. Don't think that's ever going to happen. But it's like when things are sitting around for a few days, then that's when you're at risk of Google crawling something that's unfinished. So, just something to keep in mind about that. Like, it's not the end of the world too if Google does crawl it, because the thing is like content can change. It's just sometimes you have to tell Google to recrawl your stuff if you like made changes to it and Google doesn't recognize it. So that's why it's always best to just keep everything in a draft until it's all finalized. But Yep. Yeah, well, hold off on any publishing until I just want to have a quick look on all of these before we go about publishing them, just to make sure that, just to see. Perfect. That's a good way to go about it. And then feel free to let me know if you have any questions while you're doing about it. If like, because it's going to take a little bit for the video to get uploaded. I don't know if you're planning on tackling this right away or whatever. So give me about a couple hours to get this video uploaded and sent over to you. Cool. And then I'm still around if you have any questions. But like I said, like RankMath makes it very, very easy. Like it's one of my favorite tools ever because it literally does step-by-step instructions. The only thing RankMath doesn't teach you is strategy, which is why it's not the perfect thing in the world. Having a good strategy behind everything paired with RankMath is really what takes SEO to the next level. Exactly that. That's the purpose of why I record these. Is it makes it easier just to go back and see like, oh, that's what they did in that moment. So, cool. No problem. Of course. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.